In this video, we consider utility system software. So there are many different types or categories of utility software, but 5 in particular are mentioned in your specification. That's file repair, backup, data compression, disk defragmentation, and anti-malware. Let's have a look at each of those now. So file repair is essentially exactly what it sounds like. Files, for a number of reasons, can often become corrupt or damaged, and then you're unable to open them or use them. File repair software attempts to correct these issues and restore the file to its original or indeed a working state where you can access it. File repair is often a facility built into certain applications, as well as being a dedicated, separate software tool which can be found in most operating systems. You may have noticed in the past when you open up a word processing document that it will say this file needs to be repaired and would you like us to perform the operation. The next category is backup software. So much critical data is now stored in a digital format that making sure your important files are backed up are essential. It's not just important information such as banking documents or accounting information, but also personal information. More and more people store all their memories in forms of photos in a digital format only. Backups can be set to be automatic, based on a certain schedule at a given time every week, or indeed performed manually. There are many types of backups you can perform. You can perform a full backup, which literally takes everything from a certain drive or selection of folders and takes a copy of them all in their current state and puts them into a different media in a different location. Or we could do incremental backups that scans to look what has changed since your last backup and only copies and backs up the items that have changed. This can often be quicker after performing a first initial full backup. You can back up to different media, offline media like DVDs or Blu-rays, external hard disks, or indeed backing up to an off-site cloud location. And again, backup software often comes pre-installed with an operating system, but can also be purchased separately. Compression utilities reduce the size of a file so it takes up less disk space and is quicker to download over the internet. Compressed files must be extracted before they can be read. So typically we might consider a video on YouTube like the one you're watching now. It needs to be compressed because you want to watch that video in real time. You need it to be streamed, and there would just be too much data, especially if the video was high quality. Now, depending on the algorithm used, data is either lost during this compression, which reduces the quality of an image or sound, for example JPEG, or the data is represented in a different way using binary, retaining the original data in a new compressed format, for example with a zip file. If we look at a very simplistic idea of how this might work, you can see in this illustration we've got 8 ones, we've got 8 zeros, we've got 8 ones, and finally we've got 8 zeros. Now we don't actually need to store every single bit. Instead, what we could store is the number of ones and the number of zeros. So here we've got 8 ones followed by 8 zeros, followed by 8 ones, followed by 8 zeros. As long as we know that we started with ones and then we changed every time the bit state changed, then it's very easy to uncompress this data back into its original format. The first number 8 means we need 8 ones. The second number 8 means that's followed by 8 zeros, and so on and so forth. It is very easy to reverse this process. As a result, we've stored significantly less data. In the case of this simple example, we've actually halved the number of data we're storing. Defragmentation utilities reorganize files on a hard disk. It puts the fragments of files back together and collects free space. This reduces the movement of the read-write head across the surface of disks, and this speeds up access to files. Solid-state drives should not be defragmented. It's unnecessary because they've got no moving parts and they can access files very quickly already. It actually reduces their lifespan due to the way those devices actually work. Defragmentation typically includes taking all the fragments of a file, which you can see in this illustration. It takes them and puts them into a single file towards the end of a disk, reorganising those fragments and putting them back together again. Once it's done, it's able to free up sufficient space at the start of the disk and then move the files back to the front. The result is that all the files are continuous, one after the other, starting at the beginning of the disk, and all the free space is collected towards the end. The final category is anti-malware utility software. So anti-malware software helps keep your computer and files safe from the many varieties and flavours and types of malware. This includes viruses, trojans, worms, spyware and lots more. Virtually all operating systems these days come with malware protection. It's already built in, configured and typically turned on by default. As with many other forms of utility software, there's also plenty of companies who specialise in producing their own dedicated anti-malware programs.